Have you ever thought about a career in audio engineering? Unlike playing or performing music, an audio engineer will be dealing with the technical aspects of audio. And if you think of any application where great quality audio is needed, whether that's live music, recorded music, or even film, TV, and other non-musical applications like podcasts, broadcasts, and even sports events, then an audio engineer will be involved in some capacity. So if that sounds like something you're interested in this video, we will be exploring more of what an audio engineer does and how you can become one. And I'll also share some of my journey as somebody who's in the early stages of their career. As an audio engineer, you will be dealing with the technical aspects of sound, and that can straddle multiple industries. You could be working in live sound, recording audio in a studio setting, mixing, mastering, audio repair. It could be setting up and testing equipment, resolving technical issues, and working with artists and other creatives in many different applications. Audio engineering is a role that requires a lot of technical ability, but you'll also get to be quite creative in maximizing the equipment and the environment that you're in, as well as working with other creatives and bringing their vision to life. Now, let's look at how you can become an audio engineer. And for context, I wanted to share some of my experience so far. So I started out as a classical pianist. I've been playing piano since I was 6 years old. And at that point, I was growing up in Latvia, and my only point of reference for people who were working in music were either my music teachers or other musicians who would either play classical music live or jazz or any other type of music. But I didn't really have a concept of what an audio engineer would do and whether that's even a career path that I would be interested in. So fast forward to when I was 16, I became really disengaged with playing piano, and I knew that I wanted to do something musical, but I also knew that I didn't want to carry on playing classical music, and I got quite burnt out doing that. Luckily, I then enrolled onto a music performance course, and that is when I used a DAW for the first time. I used Logic, and I got really excited about it and really interested in the technical aspects of music creation. And also that was the first time where I started to compose and write music, but I didn't really have the confidence to get started by myself, and I didn't feel like I knew how to achieve great quality audio that I wanted. So I decided to enroll on a university course, and I studied Bachelor of Science in Music Tech and Production. Initially, that started out as a course just for myself to better learn to understand audio recording and mixing concepts, but I very quickly learned that I actually really enjoyed working in a studio with other people. I really loved recording them and mixing other people's works as well. So that pivot actually led me to focus on that and start building a career and taking the first few steps in that direction. Audio engineering really rekindled my love for music, and this pivot towards the more technical aspect of it also led me to some really exciting opportunities, like working in small studios as a recording engineer, and also combining some of my background in marketing into content creation for music tech companies like iZotope. And now, fast forward a couple of years later, I am now working from my own studio setup, which I'm looking to upgrade and build upon, while I also build my music production, mixing and recording portfolio. And I even managed to get a piano in here, so I didn't stray too far away from my classical piano roots, which I'm very excited to get back into and start practicing more regularly. The great thing about your entry into audio engineering now is that it's so much more accessible. Most of us already have the tools to enter audio engineering to some degree. For example, if you have a laptop and a pair of headphones and some software, you can already get started, and you can also explore some third-party plugins that can be really powerful for audio repair, mixing, and mastering. And for me, especially when I lived in house shares and sort of smaller apartments, there was no way I could have brought an acoustic piano in with me, but I managed to have this very humble music production setup that was under a loft bed when I first started making YouTube videos. So I could start from very entry-level equipment and learn quite a lot during that process. Now that you know a little more about me, let's look at how you can become an audio engineer. So as we just discussed, audio engineering can straddle multiple industries, but it can be tricky to know when you will have the confidence to call yourself an engineer, and also to know what your metrics for success are and how to enter that industry and get started and working either with clients or getting work opportunities. So yes, you can absolutely go the formal education route, but that doesn't always guarantee you paid work or any work opportunities after that. At the same time, you might have heard of a lot of engineers who are self-taught and are doing brilliantly in their careers. One of the best pieces of advice that I received very early on is to start referring to myself as an engineer. So this is while I was studying, and I was also shadowing somebody else. And rather than saying I'm trying to be or I want to become, I started to refer to myself as an engineer. And that just lets people know what it is that you do and what you're here for. And it does not mean overinflating your skill set, but it does start to build your confidence towards the career that you want. Technically, if you're already mixing and recording for yourself at home or with other people, or you're maybe working in live performance situations or in film, TV, or gaming, you're already an engineer. But how do you define your professional skill set and define your metrics for success? Let's look at some of those. Firstly, let's look at formal education versus practical experience. For me, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Music Technology and Production, and I also have a Master's degree in Music Business. I do not regret getting either of those qualifications. For me, education meant that I could learn at my own pace in a safe and supportive environment, and because I really lacked confidence initially, that was so helpful for me. And I also had access to professional level of equipment that I wouldn't have been able to access anywhere else, and if I was to jump straight into shadowing and interning, I might not have the confidence in those environments. Education also connects you to like-minded people, and it teaches critical thinking, and it can give you more structure and guidance to your learning process. Having said all of that, I learned the most when it came to my practical experience. Once I started to shadow and intern, and later on when I had to run recording sessions by myself, I learned so much about problem solving, working with people, dealing with technical issues, failing miserably at times, and also learning to celebrate when things went really well, and I was very proud of what I did. So although education didn't expose me to a lot of the situations that I dealt with later on, it did give me a really great foundation. But having said all that, you do not need formal education to enter audio engineering. There are so many great free tutorials and also low-cost options like books and some training materials that you can access. Just make sure that those are from reputable sources and you can be well on your way to learning more. I would also really recommend reaching out to studios or live engineers or anyone else in your industry that you aspire to be like. Not only will it give you practical experience, but watching somebody else in that environment is really inspiring and can really make you see yourself in those positions later on. Next, do you have the right equipment for the job? It is true that most of us can get started with very humble setups, but there are certain areas of audio engineering where you will need more specific and more expensive equipment. So for a lot of engineers, the initial startup costs will be inevitable at some point. That could be anything from an acoustically treated room to a great selection of microphones and preamps and more specialist equipment if you're working in things like film, TV, and broadcast. But don't let high upfront costs put you off. You can actually get started with the equipment you have currently and build a great foundation for yourself. It's important to get started with what you have and then upgrade later on when you're able to, and then your fees can also reflect that. For example, interfaces like Complete Audio Series offer a great low-cost option for you to get started with, where you can plug in your monitors, instruments, and microphones and get a great quality audio. MIDI controllers like Complete S49 or the Complete Control A25, which is the one that I have, can be great for smaller spaces, and they're another low-cost option for you to get started and be able to use them with your DAW of choice. Also, if you work for a business rather than yourself, for example, in a recording studio situation, you will have access to professional quality equipment without those high upfront costs for yourself. Returning back to my point to being confident to introduce yourself as an audio engineer and start earning money for your work, it's important to do some market research so you know where you stand, what you need to learn, and also how to manage people's expectations accordingly. And I don't mean this in the negative way of comparing yourself to others and getting discouraged. What I mean is have a thorough and objective assessment of your skill set so that you know where you stand and also where you would like to progress in the future. For example, you could listen to professional works done by other people and kind of compare them to your own and see what are some of the areas for improvement. That way you can gauge whether you're at a beginner, intermediate, or professional level. You can also look at people that you aspire to be like and see what experience and education they have, and that way you can also start to perfect and build on your skill set, or maybe take some additional courses or educational programs to help you get there. One thing that many engineers, myself included, struggle with is defining their career by certain metrics, and one of them is making a full-time income as an audio engineer. We all have our own goals, and it's very important that we show up for ourselves and achieving them. But don't let that discourage you from embracing and enjoying every moment and every part of your career. For example, if you're working a 9-to-5 or a part-time job and you're doing some audio engineering work on the weekends or in the evenings, does that make you any less worthy of calling yourself a professional? No, it can be a very time-consuming journey, and it takes a lot of patience and hard work. And if anything, it's incredibly commendable that you are taking the time outside of your usual routine, outside of your 9-to-5 to pursue your goals and your passions. That is exactly what I'm doing currently with the studio space I have now and I'm looking to build upon. And I think it is really important that you take pride and confidence in that. Next, we will look at how to find work opportunities. The tricky part here is that there really isn't a set formula for success. With how many different types of audio engineers there are and different type of work opportunities and ways of working, whether that's remote, in a live setting, in a studio, for example, everyone will have their own story, but here are a few things that have helped me and I know have helped other people. Firstly, it's building genuine connections. You will hear time and time again how important networking is in the music industry or any other industry really, and that is absolutely correct. I wanted to highlight something that is even more important than simply networking is building genuine connections in the community around you. Some of the greatest opportunities and referrals have come directly from my network, which I built without any prior expectation or gain. I simply wanted to surround myself with people who share my values and who inspire me to grow and do better. The great thing is that you can find that anywhere, from posting your work online and sharing on social media, to getting involved with your local music scene, to collaborating with other musicians and artists and engineers, and finding online forums and communities like Native Instruments community, for example, which is a great space to find support and reach out for help, as well as finding out all the latest updates about product launches. Don't forget your soft skills. Yes, audio engineering is a field that requires a strong technical competence, but you will also be dealing with problem solving. You will also be working with creatives, sometimes in their most vulnerable moments, like in a recording situation. So being empathetic and a great listener, being able to project manage and having great leadership skills and time management skills and problem solving skills will be really important in your career, as well as being open to feedback and being able to give constructive feedback. While your technical competence is crucial, people tend to gravitate towards others who are easy to communicate with and work with, and those who can create a great working environment for everyone involved. So consider your industry, the type of work you're looking for, the qualifications and experience you will need, and work backwards from that. There are many ways to get the qualifications and experience you need, from shadowing to interning to following online tutorials and learning from those, to more formal education settings as well, and a combination of all of those. Remember that audio engineering and music technology as a field is ever evolving and ever developing. So incorporating regular learning as part of your routine is what will help you stay locked in and evolve with it. I hope you enjoyed this intro to audio engineering as a career. Let me know in the comments, is this something that you're looking to get into? Do you already work as an audio engineer? If so, in what field? I would really love to know more about your experiences. If you're looking to get started in mixing, audio post-production, and audio repair, we have great tutorials on iZotope YouTube. And while you're here, grab yourself a free plugin as well. Some of my favorites include Plugin Alliance, BX Subfilter, iZotope Vinyl, as well as Ozone 11 EQ and Imager. You can also get your hands on the Native Instruments Complete Start Bundle and other freebies that will be great for getting you started and getting you well on your way in your career in audio engineering. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more audio production tips and tricks.